All right, guys. Well, here we are. We are in the last week of our series, Multiply. Now, life groups are going to continue after this. Next week, your group's going to be in a different study. But tonight, we are wrapping up our 4-week series that we've been in on this idea of multiply. And what we've learned over the past couple of weeks is that Jesus saves us to be disciples. That there is no version of Christianity where we kind of get Jesus and then we can kind of do our own thing and then we die and go to heaven. There is no version of Christianity at all like that. When Jesus saves us, He saves us to follow Him. And He saves us to be disciples. That's what it means to be a disciple, is a follower of Jesus. And what we said is a disciple is somebody who surrenders their head, heart, and hands to Jesus. That more and more every single day, it's not that we're perfect, but more and more every day we say, Jesus, I am in. I want you to take all of my life, all of my head and my thoughts and what I'm living for in my heart and change me. And Jesus, take my hands because I want to be about your mission. That's what a disciple is. And the command that Jesus gives to all of us as disciples is what's called the Great Commission. We've talked about that. It's in Matthew 28, 19 and 20. And Jesus says, go into all the world and make disciples. And the way that we've said that is simply this phrase, that disciples make disciples. Let me say it again. Disciples make disciples. And so with that, the challenge that we've laid down, at least for the past 2 weeks, is that this year, what if there is one person in our church next year in 2018 that's not here in 2017, and what God uses to get them here is you. That this is the year you are going to lead somebody to Jesus. This is the year you're going to start really praying for your lost friends to be saved. That this is the year you are going to invest in that one person maybe that just got saved, maybe your friend that you've been praying for and they just met Jesus, and so you're going to invite them to life group. You're going to invite them to serve with you and sit with you at church and maybe even go out to lunch a couple of times this year and just say, hey man, how's God working in your life? That this is the year we are going to multiply ourselves. That's what it means to multiply. But let's imagine this tonight. Here's what we're going to do tonight. Let's imagine something tonight. Let's imagine that we don't do this at all. Let's imagine that we don't do this at all, that we just keep coming to church and we keep coming to life group and we read our Bible and let's imagine that we serve and we even go to church and we give. And we listen to Christian music. And we get into a life group and we get with our Christian friends and we even post on Facebook about how the world needs Jesus. And we'll even get together with our Christian friends and we say things like, Jesus needs to be in our schools. And we do all of these Christian things, but we don't do the one thing that Jesus told us to do. That we do all of these Christian things, but we never tell anybody about Jesus. That we do all of these Christian things, but we never pour into somebody to help them know Jesus better. That we go to all these Christian things, but we never bring anybody to those Christian things with us. Here's one: we never intentionally put our kids in an environment where they could hear about Jesus and learn about Jesus, because we say things to ourselves like, well, you know what? I don't want my kids to hate church, so I never make them go. And we do all these Christian things, but we don't do the one thing that Jesus told us to do, which is to make disciples. What would happen if we did that? Well, here's the thing. We know exactly what would happen if we did that. We know exactly what would happen if we did that, because the book of Judges, in Judges chapter 2, verse 10, tells us exactly what happens when one generation just lets it die with them. Because the book of Judges chapter 2, verse 10, and I think that's probably one of the most depressing verses, maybe the most depressing verse in the Bible. Judges chapter 2, verse 10, it just simply says that one generation died, and then the next generation rose up and did not know the Lord and the mighty works that He had done. And so what that simply means is that one generation knew God and they saw God do great things and they saw God perform miracles. But here's the thing, they didn't tell anybody. They didn't tell their kids. They didn't tell their neighbors. They didn't really talk about it at all. I mean, yeah, it happened. And maybe when they were together, they were excited about it and they celebrated it. But when they were out at work, when they were off, the 9 to 5 at the job, they never talked about it at all. They probably thought this. They probably thought somebody else would do it, right? They probably thought the priest would do it. They probably thought somebody else would tell their neighbor, but here's the problem. Nobody told their neighbor. Nobody told their kids. And then all of those people died, and then a generation rose up that did not know God. And listen, if you don't think that that could happen, you need to know it's happening right now. It is happening right now as you are watching this video. The next generation that's coming up, they're called millennials. And millennials would be people who are born between the years of 1980 and somewhere around the mid-90s. And millennials, by a lot of people who study generational trends and study population trends and growth, the millennials are by many people considered to be the least religious generation. Definitely less religious than their parents. Now, some of them, a lot of them are spiritual, but here's the thing, it's spirituality as they define it. So things like the Bible, Jesus and salvation through Jesus alone, things like church, it's not even on their radar. Or here's another example, the census. The census, we all have to take part in the census. If not, you at least have probably heard of what I'm talking about when we talk about the census. And it just, to get a sense of where the population is and how population has grown and where it's moving to. The question every time there's a census, what religion are you a part of? Or what faith do you profess to be a part of? More and more people, every time there's a census, more and more people check the box that says none. N-O-N-E, none. In fact, 2 years ago, I had our staff read a book. We all read a book together called The Rise of the Nones. The rise of this group of people, this massive group of people that, listen, believe maybe that there is a God, but here's the thing, they just don't see that God's relevant to their lives. And so I wonder if one of the reasons for that is because we are too busy with our own lives to multiply ourselves into the lives of other people. That we're building a kingdom, but we're not necessarily building Jesus' kingdom. And we come to environments like this, maybe where we talk about Jesus' kingdom, but maybe we're not building Jesus' kingdom. Here's the thing. It doesn't have to be this way. You can hear all that, and I don't want to end, oh my gosh, it's over. No, listen, guys, things could change. Things could change, and the change starts with you and I saying, Jesus, I want you to use my life to make disciples. I want you to use my life in that one person this year, my teammates, my friends, my classmates, my coworkers. I want you to use me in the life of that one person, that this time next year, there is somebody closer to you, and you used me to do it. Guys, here's what I want to say, and we're closing this series out. Guys, we were saved for this. We weren't saved to do all these Christian things and then all of this dies or it stops with us. No, we were saved for this. We were saved to multiply. See, Jesus said, I will build my church and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. Jesus is building his church right now, but the question is whether we will let him build it through us.